Welcome back, everyone, to the Pohada Podcast, a show where we talk about Jiu-Jitsu with Jiu-Jitsu people, very often black belts. In the case of this episode, very much not a black belt, but we're going to do our best. Before we jump in, as usual, Hamel Jiu-Jitsu. This episode is brought to you by Hamel Jiu-Jitsu, kind of my Jiu-Jitsu home away from home, if you will. As well as Way of the Tiger Soap Company. If you can't be good at jiu-jitsu, you can at least smell good at jiu-jitsu. True story. Absolutely love that stuff. Try it out. Good soap is worth the money. Don't spend money, but spend money on jiu-jitsu and good soap, for God's sake. So, I got a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. My esteemed professor, Ishmael Bentley, who gave me a blue belt as a joke, I think realized I'm probably not going anywhere, so begrudgingly and with great shame, he's honored me with a purple belt. I have some thoughts on that. Probably nothing terribly original. If I come up with something, we're going to do it in a later episode, because this time around I've actually got something I consider a also an accomplishment in jiu-jitsu, and that is I used jiu-jitsu in real life. I've made a little one-off Instagram reel or something about this in the past, and I was kind of halfway joking, although it's actually a good skill set. The video was about I had slipped walking down an icy stairwell, and rather than like reaching or just fumbling and landing hard, I kind of managed to sort of break my fall. Very strange feeling on steps. There's kind of no way around taking damage in that scenario. And I think that's valuable. I think one of the fundamental values of martial arts, particularly any of them, the Japanese stuff or whatever, that teach you how to fall, is learning how to fall. How to fall with some grace and with the softer force involved across a lifespan. As like a former / current fitness professional lifting coach, talk about an amazing skill to have. Like, fall less and fall softer. That's good life advice for sure. But that is also not necessarily what I'm hoping to talk about here today. My use of jiu-jitsu in real life was absolutely not a self-defense scenario. It wasn't the literal use of jiu-jitsu, grappling somebody to take them down or whatever. Although my use of jiu-jitsu in real life was most certainly a safety thing, partly for me, but mostly for the human being I was tasked with moving. So someone extremely close to someone extremely close to me. I suppose normal people would call that a relative. Found themselves in the late and unfortunate stages of a terminal illness. And unfortunately found themselves in a situation where they were more or less paralyzed, not in the way we think of being paralyzed, like severed spinal cord, no nervous control of the body, but fundamentally, this is where we were at. This is someone who is unable to move. And due to the logistics or bureaucracy of certain levels of care, we don't need to get into all of that. And then just as a matter of safety and convenience, and some things need to happen right now, regardless of what the perfect plan might be, we found ourselves in a situation where a living but immobilized human body of like 160 pounds or whatever needed to be moved on a regular basis from bed to couch, bed to commode, shall we say. It's real life. We're all living it. Let's go. Multiple times a day from multiple positions to multiple other places. This largely immobile human body needed to be moved. Now, being in general kind of a big, strong dude, generally you're the pick within the family to take care of these kind of tasks. And I've been close to these types of projects over the years, but never been exclusively the one human physically capable of taking care of this. And I will say that despite being 3+ years removed from consistent, reliable resistance training, I'm kind of jiu-jitsu obsessed at this point, and many more years removed from, high-level amateur strongman competitions, the only reason my physical body survived this project was the mileage I had put into very, very extensive and very serious and very heavy resistance training. You're not as strong as you need to be to handle that load and volume across a month or 2 months or 3 months, whatever it was. Holy crap. You're not accidentally strong enough for that. It's not a casual lifting scenario. This is why when medical professionals and end-of-life care professionals are tasked with doing these things, they use machines and often teams nonetheless. So big and strong, can move body, will move body. That's where we're at. The fundamental problem here is the art of getting big and strong is extremely violent, and it's a very narrow technical focus, and there's no consequence to the object upon which I'm applying my force. I'm going to very deliberately learn how to launch a barbell from floor to chest and then overhead in the clean and jerk. And within the parameters of that technique, I'm going to be very clean. The application of that technique, much like jiu-jitsu, is going to be extremely violent to get the job done. This doesn't involve a living, breathing body. It's a barbell. Gravity goes straight up and down. That bar is going straight back and down. However it moves relative to my body as I attempt to lift it fast or slow is going to be very predictable, and I can always abort and let go. I think you pick up what I'm putting down here. This is a dramatically different situation than carefully, thoughtfully, safely moving a human body that's alive and in a delicate, desperate health situation. These are two dramatically different things. So thus far in my telling of this story, I've got the apparently necessary skill set to be the helpful person in this situation. But I don't. Or rather, I didn't before. Before I started doing jiu-jitsu, my sole skill was force production. And like I said, even with round back lifting and strongman and unusual objects and stuff, a little more experience with picking up awkward things, those things were never alive. The safety of those things was never a consideration. It didn't matter. So within the first couple attempts of adjusting this person into a seated position, rotating them such that their feet are on the floor to the lift to transfer to chair position, and a few other approaches, it became abundantly obvious to me. I became very aware of the fact that, one, I needed to be absolutely as careful as possible. Duh. And two, I was intuitively already doing it, intuitively able to be much more careful than I think I would have been able to do in terms of learned movement patterns. And the simplest idea, the simplest example I can give you of this is I have shifted them to a seated position. I have supported their posture and rotated their legs off the bed so they're seated, feet to the floor. I'm supporting their back. And I found in the second or third time doing this that I was an underhook on one side and kind of a outside tie / outside tricep grip on this side. And I had my right knee to their left knee. and I had my left knee to their right knee, and I was steering with all of these things. And it was true of every other position, even the simple scoop under, hoist, and shift stuff. I had more points of contact between my body and their body, my body and the bed, my body and the table. I was so much more spatially aware, and beyond spatially aware, just simply able to use the flexibility of action of my foot when I otherwise wouldn't have. Grab thing, lift, hoist, oog, right? I mean, again, as advanced as a lifting technique gets against a barbell, it's all oog. There's no consideration for anything other than north and south. Goes up, goes down. And it kind of blew me away. When I looked down and realized I am doing jiu-jitsu against this body, using all of the principles of jiu-jitsu, not to, kill them, but to sustain their life, essentially, to keep them safe. And as brutal as the process of what we were doing was, essentially you're a primary caregiver for someone at the end of their life. It was actually a pretty amazing feeling to know that, yeah, I'm de facto the big frickin' meathead, the guy that's going to be tasked with doing so many of these things. But also that beyond meathead, I had a sensitivity to my movement. I had the ability to control the force I was producing, and that was necessary to safely move this person. It was pretty wild. And frankly, I mentioned at the start of this that I was promoted to purple belt recently, which was cool. And I kind of glaze over it because I'm still kind of formulating my thoughts, but also because the fuck's a purple belt? Like, I have no competitive passion for jiu-jitsu for myself in particular. I have no desire to go and compete. And I think after having this realization, what I'm describing to you, I don't think it would have the same appeal for me, interestingly enough, as having used this pastime skill set, this stupid, ridiculous looking, silly outfitted skill set, in a very real and very non-jiu-jitsu related application. The purple belt is cool, but like, I did it, man. Like that's probably the one of the cooler things I'll have taken from jiu-jitsu, I would assume. And like a Naga belt is cute, but it's not even close. It doesn't compare. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting for me to see what other real life scenarios that one would have probably never predicted comes about, where we find this silly skill set to be useful. Hopefully it's something more enjoyable. And I'm closing in on rambling at this point, so I think as I get attacked by my French bulldogs here, get out of here, you don't. I think I go ahead and call this episode here. So if you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe to this channel. Tap the like button, all that usual crap YouTubers say. If you're listening and you haven't shared the show or tapped that 5-star rating, I would very much appreciate it. Check out Hamel Jiu-Jitsu. Friends of mine, I actually help teach in a class here and there over there. Try out that Way of the Tiger soap and keep doing jiu-jitsu, because it's probably more useful than you think.